You know that feeling when you're stuck somewhere between a rock and a hard place? Well, multiply that feeling by hundreds, and now you're in the shoes of the crew of Air India Flight 101. Welcome to our channel. Today we are going to bring you the story of Flight 101. Stay tuned till the end to find out how even pilots can find themselves in such a terrifying situation. 2 hours into the flight, everything looked routine. Until it wasn't. Systems failed. Gauges flickered and the crew realized they were running out of one thing you can't buy more of in the sky. Time. This is Air India Flight 101. A routine domestic route turned emergency. In this video we'll piece together what happened, why critical decisions were made, and how training and protocol helped or hindered the outcome. Our timeline starts here. The Airbus A320 took off from Delhi at 7:15 a.m. bound for Goa. Oh, it was nominal. At 9:08 a.m., as the jet reached its cruising altitude of 37,000 feet, the first officer called level achieved, indicating the plane had reached its assigned altitude. Shortly after, the pilots donned their oxygen masks as a precaution due to the plane's high altitude. And now the timeline gets fuzzy. But we can piece together what happened next by looking at similar incidents. Something abnormal showed up on the screens. Perhaps a fuel imbalance or a pressurization alert. It's not known because we couldn't access the flight data. Remember, these planes have black boxers, not black cameras, so we're working with what little data is available to us. The crew likely tried to restart the affected system, but the problem escalated. Multiple warnings flooded the cockpit. Now the pilots face a triage. Which problem fixes immediately, which can wait, and which forces a diversion. To complicate matters, Tehri almost 400 nautical miles from any airport. The nearest would be Indore, but it has a lower altitude limit. Their only option was Nagpur. As the pilots ran through the checklist, they called for help. Now it's 9:26 a.m. and they declare an emergency. And what does the data say? Well, at 9:27 a.m., the pilots reported, quote, "We are diverting to Nagpur." That gives us 2 minutes from the first indication of trouble to them alerting ATC, and another 6 minutes before they decided to divert. What does that tell us about the severity of the warnings? Well, enough that they needed to put out multiple alerts, but not so severe that they couldn't keep trying to restart the systems, or that they couldn't consider other options. Now, let's go back to the cockpit. What would you do? Do you immediately declare an emergency and divert? How much time do you spend troubleshooting? With each passing minute, the pilots weigh their options. Do they have enough fuel to make it to the alternate? Is the alternate definitely suitable? Can they safely manage the current problem? Can they land safely if the problem isn't fixed? These are the kinds of calculations experts do in real time, and they're all valid concerns. At 9:30 a.m., while still over the clouds, the pilots selected the alternate airport of note. 3 minutes later, ATC cleared them to descend down to 10,000 feet. As they punched in the new altitude, the plane dropped dramatically. The nose pitched up sharply, and the plane stabilized at 5,000 feet, the required altitude for the approach to Nagpur. By now, cabin crew have taken over. The announcement crackled through the speakers. "Attention passengers. This is your captain speaking. We have an emergency. We'll be making an emergency landing," end quote. Though the captain never elaborated on the nature of the emergency, the calm in his voice likely reassured the passengers. But there's a problem. Nagpur Airport isn't prepared for an emergency landing. There's no fire truck or ambulance on standby. You can see the airport officials scrambled to get the plane into the system. Meanwhile, the pilots are fighting to maintain control of their plane. Fuel is leaking from the left wing and they need to land. At 9:41 a.m., after almost 30 minutes of troubleshooting, they finally got the engine restarted. They leveled off at 10,000 feet, set their heading for Nagpur, and raced against the clock. Back in the cabin, the passengers hold their breath as the plane drops below 10,000 feet. Some look visibly shaken. As the plane touches down, relief washes over the faces of the passengers. Every incident like this is investigated. The goal isn't to find blame, but to learn and improve. Better training, updated procedures, and fixed mechanical weaknesses. In this case, the cause was a fuel feed issue on one side of the aircraft. Normally, An aircraft can suck fuel from either wing. But in this case, for reasons that are currently unknown, the fuel in the left wing wasn't accessible to the engines. That meant that the fuel gauge in the cockpit didn't reflect the actual fuel on board. Had the crew declared an emergency and diverted earlier, they might have made it to an alternate. But given the fuel on board, Nagbor was their best option. In the end, they landed safely, thanks to good training and teamwork between the pilots, cabin crew, and air traffic controllers. But this event was still one of the most stressful in commercial aviation. Air travel is statistically safe. But when things go wrong, the clock is always ticking. If you found this breakdown useful, hit the like button and tell us what topic you want us to tackle next. Until then, fly safe.